Buff Nation, welcome into Buffs News Weekly. I'm your host, Russ. I wanted to jump on and do a video today because I did not get a chance to talk about the game on Saturday after the game due to the fact that I was at the game, had some longer trouble getting home after the game, so wasn't able to pop on with David Talks Buffs for the post game, and just kind of took the weekend to look at what I was able to see from the national footage, and then also today the all 22 for the game to better kind of summarize my thoughts on what happened to the game. We went into that game thinking that Colorado was going to have one of two outcomes. They were either going to lose or be in a close game that would be as good of a loss, or we would win by the amount that we were expected to win by, and we would feel much better going into our first Big 12 game against Houston. However, in the end, neither of those happened. In all honesty, obviously, yes, we did cover the score and were able to win in what I would consider a blowout. But if anything, we truly do not have many answers to a lot of questions, and in fact, have more questions than we do answers. The big talk and big information, of course, was the 3 quarterback system that Coach Prime used. I really wish we had some more information about what the plan was, what happened, what really was the point of everything going on. Because what it truly felt like is it felt like Coach Prime and the team were treating that game like a preseason game. Obviously, college football does not have preseason football like the NFL does that allows you to see what you have in your team, to allow different players the opportunity to work their way up a depth chart. You don't get that in college football, and you can't take a loss like you can in the preseason NFL since the record does not matter. So that all happening was very interesting, and it was like Colorado was treating this game like a preseason game. Now, if that's the case, we won. We got to see a bunch of different players play. They got to see what they had in different players. Then great. But we don't get that information. So we have to now speculate as fans as what's going on. And I already see that all over social media. Again, we have the issue in this day and age that we can all post whatever, whenever, and say whatever we want online and just think whatever we want to think. The problem with that is that we truly don't know. We're not in the building. We don't have the information that we are privy to. Obviously, the news before the game, when you looked at like DNVR and Uncle Neely spoke on it, that, Julian Lewis was going to get a ton of playing time, and it sounded like, okay, it was just going to be a split game between the two with no real intention or knowledge that Ryan Staub was also going to get a portion of the game, which Coach Prime did say afterwards that he had the plan and told Ryan Staub and told Julian Lewis and told Kaden Salter that all three would play, and this is how it was going to play out. So we don't know how those players reacted to that news. We don't know how the players reacted on the sidelines to everything happening. I already saw so many people on social media saying that Julian Lewis is transferring. He's not going to be a part of this program anymore. That I think is a complete and utter overreaction, because that's not what I saw from that game. I saw them giving him a chance to play a little bit as a true freshman, and also giving a chance to Ryan Staub to play. And Ryan Staub showed that 3 years in this system gives you a quarterback that understands the plays, understands what to do, understands the audibles that are necessary, and that played out with how he played in that game. So the question now becomes, who is the starting quarterback for the Colorado Buffaloes? And I do not think that we have a straight answer for that. I think there was a lot of good to be told from each quarterback, including Julian Lewis in his very brief time. But Kaden Salter started the game just fine, started the game methodically, looked like he had a very better grasp on the overall offense through that first drive and the second drive. But when he came back in the second half, it was more of the same. And after watching some of the tape, the few things that I'm just starting to see with Kaden Salter that I'd like to comment on and really dive into is the fact that he's still having some issues with deciding on what he wants to do. Does he want to pass the ball? Does he want to run with the ball? There were a few plays that he ran with the ball, but there were guys wide open for easy passes. There was plays where he threw the ball when he could have ran that, yes, they were technically there and they had a chance to go for a lot of yards, which we talked about last week against Georgia Tech. And even this week, there was another play very similar to that where he wanted the receiver to cut up the field. The receiver did not. He ends up overthrowing it, and it looks bad. It looks bad to everybody watching, but when you watch the All-22, you can kind of see what he's going for. So the question is the coaching doing the right thing when things get off script? Are the players on the same page to know what each of them wants when that happens? Is Kaden Salter confident in making the right decision of, oh, I should just run for the play here, or I should go for the big play that I think I can hit? Because right now, the fact is, whether or not those receivers are doing the right plays, whether or not the coaches are telling them to do the right thing, the fact is that we are missing on those big plays. And so do you take what the defense is giving you? Do you take the couple of yards you can get off of scrambling, or do you not? When he did run on Saturday, he didn't get as many yards as he could have on some plays, mostly because the defense, was able to collapse on him, and there were some players open for the pass. In that moment, it might have been better to throw the ball because you didn't really gain anything out of it. There's just so much to look at and so much to really evaluate. The biggest problem we have right now is we still just don't know who this team is. The positives that we can look at, and I do want to dive into this a little bit to give you guys maybe a better feeling of how you're feeling today. I know that I'm seeing online a lot of people are still feeling like we're worse off. I'm seeing people say we're now going to lose a bunch of games, that we're not a good team, things are bad. I'd like to remind you some things. And our good friend over on Twitter, Scobuffs22, wrote this out today. And I think it is a very, very good overview of the first two games that I think a lot of people are not really getting. So, some perspectives for Victory Monday. Georgia Tech put up 680 yards on Gardner-Webb with their backup quarterback, and they are now only a 4.5-point underdog to the number 12 team in the country. I said this last week after the game. Georgia Tech is a lot better of a team than we give them credit for. That loss is not as bad as it should be seen in the grand scheme of the season. Something he doesn't mention here that I'd also like to comment on is the Big 12 is just not looking as strong as maybe we thought heading into the season. Kansas State losing that game last week to Iowa State, and then this week nearly losing to North Dakota. Okay. Or last week losing to North Dakota. This week, again, not looking good. Kansas State was projected to be one of the top teams, not doing what they're supposed to do. Arizona State, another team that looked good week one, had trouble this weekend, not looking like the team that they were. Now, there are other teams that are just fine, that are going to cause us problem. Utah is looking absolutely amazing. The question going into the season was, who would Devin Dampier be for Utah, and would they be able to get back to what they needed to be? The answer looks to be yes. Okay. Kansas looking much better this year. Houston even looking improved. So Friday's game is definitely going to be a difficult one, and Colorado does go in as an underdog. But overall, the schedule that Colorado had is looking a little bit less difficult compared to what it did, if they can just continue some consistency and be able to do some of the things that we know they can do. So these are the things I want to talk about. CU played 3 quarterbacks versus Delaware, gave 22 players on offense more than 15 snaps, and they still covered. That really goes to the point that I made about treating this like a preseason game. CU played a ton of players in the game Saturday. Multiple quarterbacks, but also multiple players along the defense, multiple players everywhere. It seemed like they were trying to figure out who they had on this roster and who needs to be a part of this team on a regular basis. Even with that, we still covered. Last year through 2 weeks with, of course, the big guys, Shador, Travis, Jimmy, LeJounte, offense averaged 20 points per game, 20.5 points per game. This year, with 10 new starters on offense, they are averaging 25.5 points per game. So through 2 games, they are averaging more points. And here it was, me thinking that this offense just didn't seem as potent as last year. Well, it seems like they're more efficient this year than they were last year. Last year, through the first 2 weeks, the defense was giving up an average of 27 points per game. This year, after losing 5 of their top 5 tacklers, our 3 top tackle for loss leaders, and of course, the Bednarik Award winner, the Buffs are only giving up 17 points per game. Obviously, helped by the 7 points the points that they allowed to Delaware being so low, but Georgia Tech didn't go off, but they are also a running team. So that one, little bit of an interesting stat, but still something to point out. Last year, the Buffs through the entire season averaged 65 yards per game on the ground. And so far this year, we are averaging 138 yards per game in both games. Last week, we did 145. This week, we did 136 yards, I believe, something like that. We're right around that 138 yards per game. Much more improved, over double what we did the last 2 years. CU's running attack seems good. Now, when I watched the tape of the game, and again watched the tape last week of Georgia Tech, the one thing I couldn't get off of is the fact that the offensive line is not doing a great job of blocking when it comes to running. I'm sorry, it's an absolute fact. You look at the Pro Football Focus grades for the players going into both games, not good. The run blocking is not good. Pass blocking, absolutely improved. Absolutely improved. The quarterbacks are getting a heck of a lot more time in the pocket than Shedeur ever got at any point last year, and they're just doing an overall better job blocking when it comes to the pass blocking. Run blocking still needs to be improved. Now, I don't know if that's a chemistry thing with a bunch of new guys together, but there is definitely room for improvement there. And if we do that, we're still gaining 138 yards per game, even with some poor run blocking. So that can be improved on. That has room to change right away if we can fix that. The next line. Last year, the Buffs averaged 8.1 penalties per game for 71 yards. Through 2 games, the Buffs have had a total of 15 penalties for 135 yards. This year, they have 9 penalties for 85 yards for an average of 4.5 penalties for 42 yards. We have cut our penalty issue in half, guys. We have cut the penalty issue in half. And honestly, I was so thrilled on Saturday that through the first half, 0 penalties. And almost through the entire game, we had 0 penalties. It wasn't until the very last couple of drives that Colorado then started having some penalty issues with the players that were playing at that point. But overall, a much improved team when it comes to discipline. And then the last note, last year, the Buffs had 15 touchbacks all season. This year, they already have 11 with Buck Buchanan. 100% kicking the ball out of the end zone touchbacks. The special teams is absolutely special this year. Damon Greaves, 64-yard punt during the game on Saturday, also pinned Delaware on the 1-yard line on one of his punts. He is looking amazing. Mata is still 100% from both extra points and field goals this year. So guys, special teams, absolutely special. Absolutely special. We got a blocked punt during the game by Alex McPherson. So overall, special teams, much improved. Offense is more consistent, and it is improved technically by the standards of what we set through the first 2 games last year. And that will only improve. We're still at the beginning of the season. That will hopefully improve there. So that's another positive. Defensively, we're right at where we were previously. Yes, are we giving up big plays? This has been the MO of the Buffs the last couple years. Okay? We give up yards. We give up big plays. But when it comes to third down and it comes to the red zone, we are able to perform there. And Saturday was no different. We allowed big plays to Delaware. We did. But when it came to the red zone, when it came to those fourth down plays, Colorado did what they needed to do to stop Delaware and get them off the field. Okay, 2 more turnovers on Saturday with the fumble recovery and the interception. That brings us to 5 turnovers to 0. That's right, 0 turnovers. Colorado has yet to turn over the ball and are winning the turnover battle and margin on a 5-0 margin there. That is absolutely excellent as well and needs to be discussed. We can't ignore that. So can things improve? Yes. Can things improve defensively? Yes. Can things improve in the run blocking? Yes. And do we need to figure out the quarterback room and quarterback situation for Colorado? Yes, yes, and yes. But overall, things are kind of where you might expect them to be at this point in the season. We have room for improvement. CU is going to be tested this weekend at Houston. Okay, they're already coming in as a 3.5-point underdog at the time of recording this video. We'll talk more and dive more into Houston this week as the week goes on. So do be on the lookout for that. Of course, make sure that you are subscribed so you know when we go live on this channel and can be a part of those live conversations. But I just wanted to jump on here and discuss really briefly some of my opinions, but also an outlook on things that maybe I don't think a lot of people are taking when it comes to this team. I think there is a lot of good to be done, and there is a lot of good happening. There is also a lot of bad, which we can definitely fix. I will have to see what we do against Houston overall. So appreciate you for taking the time to watch this video. Again, make sure to like this video if you like what we're doing here and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, for Buffs News Weekly, I'm Russ. Go Buffs.